Hello, everyone. I was the special advisor to the mayor of Daegu City just until day before yesterday, when Daegu suffered so much from COVID-19. There were things we were already aware, and there are things that we were new to. So I'd like to express my gratitude to the people of Daegu today. I'd like to briefly explain what Daegu tackle the situations and what regrets we have and what lessons we have learned. As you can see, many speakers have previously explained the characteristics of COVID-19 already, so I won't repeat. You know that there were a lot of burning questions around whether the virus is asymptomatic or symptomatic. However, it was an unprecedented disaster that we had to face. It was a very horrifying experience we had to experience. And it is so random, hence so scary. So when we look back, this is something that we need to have a vital preparations to deal with. Next slide, please. When you look at the trend in Daegu, as of 6th of June, as of 3rd of July, about 7,000 people. So about 20 new cases has been increased. And the number of the people who are in hospitalization is 23 people. So things seem very stable. However, we do have new cases today, so we are a little nervous about it. So maybe for about 50 days, Daegu was placed at the center of the media, not only domestically, but worldwide. So we had the very first case on the 18th of February, and within 5 days, we had reached 100 cases. And shockingly, in 13 days, it jumped up to 3,000 cases. And at the peak time, we had over 700 cases a day. And we also have 9 continuous days with over 300 cases. So we were trying to secure bed and ward in 10 hospitals, but we were running out of bed during those times. So this is the whiteboard in doctor's office. So without being paid, they written down all the details of patients for those times. With their commitment and passion, you know, things got better, and now it's much stable now. We had the very first case in Korea on the 16th of January. With the experience with MERS, we did proper preparations we prepare screening center, testing facility, contact case isolation facilities. So after 1 month passed, when we didn't have any case in Daegu, we thought, oh, Daegu is safe. However, we had the first case. Even after the first case in Daegu, we thought, we are very confident. But when we did the epidemiological survey, we were able to find out the case was linked to Shincheonji Church when we had total testing, where we also found over 1,000 confirmed cases. So among those, 4,265 people were confirmed with the virus. The portion of those cases from Shincheonji Church takes up to 60%, which is very big portion. So when we look at the exponential increase of the cases, it jumped from case 1 to 148. It just didn't take long at all. Very fortunately, the private hospital had become a great help, and also those who voluntarily came down to Daegu to assist the situation. The previous guidelines was you only supposed to have one patient in per one negative pressure room. However, we had to be flexible, hence modify the guidelines, which allow multiple patients in one negative pressure rooms. However, we were able to see 80% of patients were only having mild or the medium level of symptoms. So we adopted living and treatment facility where we moved those patients to. Therefore, we were able to cope with those who had severe symptoms. We had a time when more than 4,000 patients had to be in hospitalization. And we also had a time more than 2,000 patients were quarantined at home because we couldn't cope with the number of patients who need hospitalizations. We had implemented this triage where we categorized the severity of the symptoms. So this, what you just see on the screen, is some of the leaflets we hand over. So if you look at the screen, we prepare 100 telephones, which were used to have a video call between the doctors and the patients with a duration of 10 or 15 minutes to check, their symptoms and what level of the symptoms the patients was having. So if the symptoms is, happen to be severe, then those patients will were moved to the hospital. Whereas we had some patients who had to just passed away while awaiting to be hospitalized. So this strategy criteria had become somewhat a trend to prevent those incidents. If we didn't have that system implemented, the situation would have been worse. Next slide, please. And I mentioned those 10 specialized hospitals in Daegu. So we invited those the head of the hospitals. With them, we had a morning briefing every day, discussing the critical matters and what actions need to be taken regarding the availability of beds accordingly. So after we resolved the Sincheonji issue, after things got stable and calmer, we had experienced the problems with the dialysis patient cases and the patients in elderly, the nursing home. So those the issues had to be individually tackled. So we appointed plasma hospital for pregnant women only. And also we separately prepare facilities and hospital for those who with mental illness and high-risk groups. Next, please. So with a number of 500 to 700 new cases every day, it was impossible to do epidemiological surveillance. So instead of disclosing the locations of the new cases, whether the case took place, so we sort of took a different approach, which we sort of look at the broader area where the cases occurred. So at the moment, the epidemiological surveillance is working, but it wasn't back then due to the high number of new cases taking place every day. How we tackle the situation? The biggest effort was made by the civilians of Daegu. The word lockdown had caused some misunderstanding politically. However, the civilians of Daegu chose to have a volunteer lockdown. The education institutes, call center, they just closed down voluntarily. If you look at the next slide, you can see how not mobile the civilians of Daegu were. If you look at the numbers for the 4 weeks of February, the public transport rate especially for metro was 23.7%, which means people really did not travel. So you can say the city of Daegu was in hibernation during this time. because COVID-19 is very easy to trouble and very infectious. So volunteer lockdown and quarantine were the key to flatten the curve. So up until the mid of March, we thought we should have the approach, so-called embrace COVID-19, co-live with COVID-19. When we come up with 7 basic living guidelines. So in order to come up with these guidelines, we used to have weekly meetings, but after things got calmer, the frequency got decreased. So within the guidelines, you can, so every house stakeholders come up with different regulations. For example, how things should be done in a karaoke room, how things should be done in fitness centers. The reason why we were successful is the commitment from the civilians of Daegu, and also the local government and Daegu Medical Association, expert group, Medicity Committee, all these the stakeholders' commitments were playing a vital role. And also the prompt actions from the central government, for example, the setting up the living treatment facility that enable Daegu not failing its medical system. And there were tons of volunteer the personnels coming from many organizations, including Red Cross, providing equipment, including masks. One thing that I find disappointing is there wasn't sufficient guidelines, even though we did experience MERS. And due to the delay of compensation for the private hospitals, that also created a lot of losses. Therefore, we have prepared a guideline for the possible second wave of COVID-19. So we are expecting 0.5% of Daegu populations might be affected by COVID-19, which is 12,000 people in Daegu alone.